On a cold winter night, 5 young people left Yuba City, California in a car. A few days later, when the police found the abandoned vehicle, there was no sign of the 5 young people. Yuba City is a small town in Northern California. In 1978, 5 young people with intellectual and mental problems lived here. The oldest was 32 years old and the youngest was 24. The 32-year-old Ted Weiher. Ted Weiher was very kind and enthusiastic when getting along with others. He would keep waving and greeting strangers, but he would be very frustrated if the other person didn't respond. Before the incident, Ted Weiher worked in a snack bar. His parents actually always wanted him to quit his job because Ted Weiher had a slight learning disability. The working environment of the fast food restaurant was not suitable for him, and his mental state had not been good recently. The 24-year-old Jack Hoot, he had a mild learning disability. Whether in communication, work, or study, he reacted a little slower than normal people. Jack Hoot and Ted Weiher had a very close relationship. The two were basically together every day. Although there was a big age gap between them, Ted Weiher took care of him like a brother. The 29-year-old Bill Sterling. Bill Sterling was a very devout Christian. He spent a lot of time praying or reading religious books every day. Although he was particularly slow to react, he was very kind to people. At the treatment center for the disabled, he actively helped others and chatted with other disabled people to make them feel less lonely. The 30-year-old Jack Madruga. Jack Madruga joined the U.S. Army after graduating from high school, but was forced to retire in November 1977 due to intellectual problems. Jack Madruga was the only one among the 5 young people who had a car and a driver's license. But he never allowed others to drive his car, so he often served as the driver for everyone. The 25-year-old Gary Mathias. Gary Mathias worked at his stepfather's gardening company. Gary Mathias had also served in the U.S. military and participated in the Vietnam War, but was retired due to mental illness and drug abuse. Gary Mathias was once diagnosed with paranoid schizophrenia. He had to rely on a large amount of medication to stabilize his condition every day. Otherwise, he would get sick. The symptoms were manic, irritable, and aggressive. But after long-term treatment, his condition had improved. He would only get sick when under extreme stress or severe stimulation. These 5 young people met in a community project to help the disabled in Yuba City. The 5 of them also formed a basketball team, and their basketball team was quite famous locally. On February 24, 1978, there was a basketball game at the California State University branch in Chico, 80 kilometers north of Yuba City. One of the teams was the favorite team of the 5, so Jack Madruga drove the car and took the other 4 people to watch the game. The result of the game that night should have been exciting for them because their favorite team won. According to the owner of a supermarket near the stadium, the 5 people excitedly walked into his store that night and bought a bunch of snacks and drinks. The whole process was constantly discussing the game that night. The next morning, Ted Weiher's mother habitually called her son to get up, but found that he hadn't returned home all night. So Ted Weiher's mother thought maybe he went to the other 4 people's houses. When Ted Weiher's mother called the other parents and integrated the messages together, she found that the 5 people actually hadn't returned home all night. The key was that these 5 people also had an important basketball game today. If they won, they could get a free 1-week trip to Los Angeles. Considering the mental state of the 5 people, several parents went to the police station to report the case first, and then rushed to the stadium to see if they could find them. But until the game started, they still didn't see these 5 people. After receiving the report, the police attached great importance to it and immediately sent a large number of police forces to search the section between Chico and Yuba City. However, after several days, there was no discovery at all. Until February 28th, that is, the 4th day after the 5 people disappeared. A ranger in Plumas National Forest reported that an abandoned car was found on an unfinished road. Through the license plate number, the police confirmed that the car was Jack Madruga's. When the police arrived, they found that the vehicle was 112 kilometers northeast of Chico, completely opposite to the route home. The road from Chico back to Yuba City was flat, while the road to Plumas National Forest was winding and uneven. Due to the high altitude in the mountains, the entire mountain road was even more difficult to walk in winter, and there was snow everywhere. Although these 5 people had some intellectual problems, they wouldn't be unable to find their way home. So the possibility of getting lost could basically be ruled out. Then the police inspected the vehicle again and found some food packaging bags and some candies scattered on the car seats. They also found 4 maps in the glove compartment in the front row. The car door was unlocked and one of the glass windows was half down. There was no car key in the car either. The entire state of the car was like a temporary stop here. Could it be that the car ran out of gas, or there was some malfunction, or the wheels were stuck in the snow and couldn't get out? So did these people abandon the car to seek rescue? The police also thought of this and tried to start the car. After checking, they immediately ruled out these 3 doubts. Because there was still a quarter of the gas in the car and the vehicle was running normally. What was even more strange was that this was an unfinished road. Like Jack Madruga's car, it might scratch the chassis when encountering a pit, but after inspection, there was not a single scratch. So what exactly happened? What happened that night? Due to the extremely bad environment in the mountains at the time of the incident, it caused no small trouble to the police's search operation. Helplessly, they could only temporarily stop the search, and solicited clues about these 5 people from the society. People who provided valid information could get a reward of $2,600. In a few days, the police really received a lot of information. Most of it was useless, but 2 pieces caught their attention. That's when the entire incident entered the strangest part. The first clue was provided by a man named Joseph Shones. He said that he had a vacation cabin in the mountain where the vehicle was found. He originally planned to bring his family to the mountain for 2 days that weekend. So he thought of driving up the mountain on Friday afternoon to explore the road and check the snow situation around the cabin. Around 5:30 p.m. he started to return from the cabin. But on the way down the mountain, the wheels got stuck in the snow, and at the same time he had a heart attack. So he quickly found all the seat and lay in the car to rest, waiting for someone to pass by and rescue him. Because the weather was very cold at that time, he didn't turn off the engine and kept the heater on in the car. He lay like this until about 11:30 p.m. when he was suddenly awakened by the light shining from behind, so he quickly got out of the car and shouted for help in the direction of the light. He vaguely saw a pickup truck and a car. There was a group of people standing in front of the cars, and there was also a woman holding a child. They seemed to be talking about something. When this group of people heard Shones shout for help, they stopped talking and turned off the headlights. Shones thought at that time that they might not want to rescue him, so he went back to the car and lay down. Around 1:30 a.m., Shones heard the whistling sound outside the car window. So he immediately got up. This time he saw the light from the flashlight again, so he quickly got out of the car and shouted for help in the direction of the light source, but the flashlight light also went out immediately. Helplessly, he could only return to the car until dawn. At this time, his physical condition was much better. He walked 12 kilometers and returned to the cabin to call for rescue. On the way back to the cabin, he saw the blue Ford sedan, about 50 meters away from his car. Regarding Sean's testimony, there were actually many versions. The Los Angeles Times didn't mention the woman with the child at all, while the Washington Post said that Shones only saw one car that night. Through the police investigation, it was also confirmed that Shones did have a heart attack. So combining this information, Shones did have a heart attack that night and did see cars and people on the mountain road. But he didn't have more accurate content, so there were differences in his testimony when facing different media interviews. Is his testimony reliable? Another clue was provided by a female convenience store clerk. She said she saw these 5 people around 2 p.m. on February 25th, that is, the afternoon when the 5 people were found missing. They came to the store in a red pickup truck to buy things. 2 people entered the store and the other 3 were waiting in the car. One of the 2 people who entered also went to a nearby phone booth to make a call. Finally, after her identification, the 2 people who entered the store were Bill Sterling and Jack Madruga, and Jack Madruga was the one who made the call. But her testimony was strongly questioned by Jack Madruga's family. They said that Jack Madruga had a strange fear of the phone since childhood and never made calls. Regarding this point, you can look at Ted Weiher next to Jack Madruga. This person also has long hair and the hairstyle is similar to Jack Madruga's. And judging from the face shape, the 2 people's body shapes should also be very similar. Could it be that the sales clerk mistook him? If the questioned information is excluded and combined with other clues, then 3 pieces of information can be obtained. First, at least these few people were still normal at around 2 p.m. on the 25th and nothing unexpected happened. Second, what Shones saw were 2 cars, one was Jack Madruga's Ford, and the other was the red pickup truck seen by the female clerk. Third, only Jack Madruga among the 5 people had a car, so whose pickup truck was that? Was it related to the woman with the child? At this time, the case once fell into a deadlock. The police spent a lot of energy, and the 5 missing people seemed to have vanished into thin air. Until 4 months after the incident, a motorcycle club held an event in Plumas National Forest, and an unexpected discovery broke the deadlock of the case. On June 4, 1978, this motorcycle club came to the forest park. There was an abandoned RV camping base there. Generally, only experienced camping enthusiasts would come here. Although this camping base was abandoned, there were still several towed RVs parked inside. When this group of people approached one of the RVs, they unexpectedly smelled a disgusting stench. This kind of stench couldn't be produced by the decay of ordinary animal corpses. So they quickly ran to the park's service center to report to the police. The police arrived immediately and sealed off the scene. The door of the compartment was locked from the inside. When they tried to open the door, they were shocked by the situation inside the compartment, because there was a rotten male body lying on the bed in the compartment. The body was tightly wrapped in 8 blankets, there were no shoes on the feet, and the exposed feet were all frostbitten. On the cabinet beside the bed, the police found a ring, a necklace, a wallet. There was some cash in the wallet and a gold watch. On the floor under the bed, they found Gary Mathias' shoes and more than a dozen military canned bottles. After confirmation, this male body was Ted Weiher. His beard had grown very long, and his weight had dropped from more than 200 pounds to more than 100 pounds. Later, forensic doctors inferred from his death state that he had lived here for at least 2 or 3 months, and the cause of death was freezing or starving to death. But strangely, that gold watch didn't belong to any of the 5 of them. Also, according to the parents of these 5 people, these 5 children had never been to this forest park, let alone the camping base. How did they walk more than 30 kilometers to get here? Was there someone familiar with this place leading the way? And that stranger's gold watch, were these related to the woman with the child? And those dozen or so military canned bottles, the seals of which required professional tools and people who had been in the army to know how to open them. Only Jack Madruga and Gary Mathias among the 5 people had served in the army. Could they have opened them? Then the police began to search the surrounding areas centered on the camping ground. The next day, they found the bodies of Bill Sterling and Jack Madruga 17 kilometers south of the camp. A few days later, Jack Hoot's body was found in the northeast of the camp. The police also found a rusty flashlight and 2 blankets near him. So far, 4 of the 5 missing people have been confirmed dead, but Gary Mathias has never been seen alive or dead. And the cause of death of the 4 people found was not homicide. They were all frozen to death, and the bodies were all bitten by wild animals. Some were even eaten to the bone. In the end, the police gave up looking for Gary Mathias, listed him as a missing person. The entire incident was also classified as a mountain climbing accident and closed. To this day, Gary Mathias has vanished like a puff of smoke, and there is no more information about him. There is really too little evidence about this case. Like all unsolved cases, some people put forward their own inferences, but they would soon be overturned. There are two main reasons. First, these 5 people were all mentally abnormal, and some of their behaviors couldn't be understood by normal people's thinking. Second, because of the appearance of the 2 witnesses, the entire case became confusing and increased people's imagination. Then the process of this unsolved case can be speculated. On February 24th, the 5 people excitedly came to Chico to cheer for their favorite team, and the final result made them very excited. So they went to buy some snacks and drinks, preparing to find a place to celebrate properly. But they didn't know where was suitable. At this time, they might have met friends who also came to watch the game. Then this friend was likely the owner of that red pickup truck, the woman with the child. But the woman couldn't drive with the child, so the child's father should also be there. These 2 people should also be a little abnormal. They were also excited because the team won. So they proposed to go to the camping base in Plumas National Forest to celebrate together. After discussing, everyone agreed and went up the mountain. There is a detail to pay attention to next. Schoen said that at around 11:30 p.m., he found the light of the car headlights shining from behind. He was going down the mountain at that time. So if his testimony was correct, this group of people going up the mountain must have encountered some situation and also turned around to go down the mountain, which was the same direction as Schoen's. And when Schoen's was drowsily asleep, this group of people was already on the mountain road behind him. The speculation about the reason for their going down the mountain might be related to the game the next day. They attached great importance to the game the next day, so they changed their minds on the way to the camp and wanted to go home. It might also be that Jack Madruga thought the mountain road was too difficult and was very harmful to his car. Anyway, when they turned around and went down the mountain, they happened to stop behind Schoen's car and then got out of the car to discuss something. At this time, Schoen's hurriedly shouted for help to them. But these people might have thought they encountered a murderer lurking in the depths of the forest and were scared to turn off the headlights and hide. They didn't hold flashlights to want to go back to the car until around 1 a.m. This could explain why Schoen's heard the whistling sound. But they didn't expect to hear Schoen's shout for help again and turned off the flashlight and hid again. Because the temperature in the mountain was too low, they finally had no choice but to find a few people to drive the pickup truck and go to the camp together. These people opened a few cans and survived the night at the camp. This could explain why Schoen's only saw Jack Madruga's car the next morning. It was February 25th. Since they missed the game, they thought of staying in the camp for 2 days. So the woman with the child and the child stayed at the base. Since Jack Madruga didn't allow others to drive his car, he wanted to go and bring the car back by himself, and the others followed the child's father to drive down the mountain to buy things. Then there was the testimony of the female cashier, but she mistook Ted Weiher for Jack Madruga. She might not have seen the other 3 people in the car very clearly. So maybe Ted Weiher called to report safety to his family. But at this time, the family had already reported the case and no one answered the phone. When the 5 people bought things and returned to the camp, they found that Jack Madruga hadn't returned yet, so they split up to look for Jack Madruga. During this period, because Gary Mathias' shoes might not be suitable for walking in the mountain, and he was more experienced because he had participated in the war, so he exchanged shoes with Ted Weiher and let Ted Weiher and the woman wait in the trailer. The result was that Bill Sterling found Jack Madruga, but the 2 got lost in the mountains and were finally frozen to death. So was Jack Hoot. Finally, only the man and Gary Mathias returned to the camp. Because the man and the woman were afraid of being punished for this matter, they designed a huge conspiracy. They asked Ted Weiher to stay well in the camp and wait for them to seek help. Then, in order to make Gary Mathias believe them, they asked Gary Mathias to open more than a dozen cans for Ted Weiher and finally asked Ted Weiher to lock the door of the trailer from the inside. Because they left in a hurry, the man's gold watch was also left in the camp. After leaving the camp, they found a way to make Gary Mathias disappear forever. Finally, they pretended nothing had happened and returned to their lives. The above remarks are for reference only. The truth is unknown and cannot be verified. I hope everyone can think independently and judge rationally. Maybe we will never guess what the truth is, but the only thing we know is that their families really love them, and they have never stopped looking for their children. One of their mothers said, "If your son is going out to watch a ball game with good friends, you must give him a hug and tell him you love him because this might be the last time you see him."